Welcome back to the Brantley Method. This week we have a very special coach, Jayson G. We brought him on to discuss, to continue our More Than Just a Recruiter series, talk about the pathways and the pipelines the guys take as they navigate through coaching and finding that passion and that joy for development and growth for young student athletes. So Coach G, excited to have you. You're one of the guys I told myself when I started this platform, when I started doing this, I was going to start with the guys that supported me and were there for me and my growth and development. And I always remember, I never forget. I'm driving down the highway and I'm right there in your area, and hey, Coach, I'm around. Can I stop by? And without hesitation, it's yeah, come on by. And that's the type of atmosphere that I feel like moving forward. And it happens in a lot of places. I think it's not talked about enough, but that's the type of atmosphere as black coaches and as black men that we need to have from a level of support for each other. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your constant support, and I appreciate you coming on today.
Well, Justin, thanks for having me. I appreciate your perseverance and your desire to serve, and we share that. I actually do a Zoom call for African-American coaches every Thursday at 10 a.m. Just because I really believe in giving back, and anytime anyone reaches out, we always have an open door policy.
That's awesome. So that Zoom call that you have at 10 a.m., what's the makeup of that group? Is it a lot of high school guys? Is it college assistants? What's the body of, what's the collective group look like?
Actually, I have both. About 2 months ago, the Lord just really put on my heart to start doing marriage ministry. So my wife and I do marriage ministry. We've been doing it for 20 years, and we started a marriage group every Sunday at 6 for people of color. And then I started 2 weeks ago, we started a marriage ministry for interracial couples. These are both high school and college coaches. And then this is my second week doing this for young African-American coaches, and we have high school and college coaches. And today we talked about recruiting. The first motivation is just how to help them navigate through the profession. So I really believe in serving and helping others, and being an African-American coach who's been a head coach at 2 levels, and I know what it takes. And so I just want to lend myself to others.
Absolutely, and that's amazing. I think you touched on something. It's funny. We can have all the plans in the world, right? But the old saying goes, tell God your plans, and He's gonna laugh because He has a different plan for it. So talk to me a little bit about navigating through the coaching industry and what that's been like. Being a husband. And now that you're doing that marriage ministry, what are some of the things that you've learned about yourself, both as a father, as a husband, as a man, navigating through the coaching industry?
Great question. I first want to share why I coach. I think it's important in whatever we do, we know why. And a real short vision, I had a high school coach that led me to the Lord. And up until that time, I tell people I was a drug baby. I was drugged to church every Sunday, but I didn't have a relationship. And at 15 years old, I accepted Jesus Christ in my heart and in my life, and began to live for Him. And things started to change, tremendously in my life and with my journey, and had an unbelievable high school career, Hall of Fame high school career, Hall of Fame college career, and met a young lady January 6, 1986 at 6:06 at a gym at the University of Charleston where I played. Yeah. She was that impressionable, and she was a senior in high school. I was a sophomore in college, and took me 4 years of begging for her to marry me. She married me May 5th of 1990, and she graduated from college May 6th. And we're living in this home in Youngstown, Ohio. My first coaching job, 23 years old, got a chance to be a Division I assistant. Great opportunity. And I'm looking around, Justin, at this 2-car garage. I got a courtesy car. She's got a company car. She was an engineer making $45,000. I was a Division I assistant making all of $18,000 in 1989. And we living in this $81,000 home, and I realized that, man, I grew up in a $35,000 home with 8 brothers and sisters. A little bit different, So I'd realized what the Lord had done for me, and looking back at this coach that had told me about Jesus and helped develop me into the person and player that I was, I Coach Scobie. And she goes, you've thanked him hundreds of times. I met you when you were in sophomore in college. You met him as a ninth grader. So what's different? I said, stay with me. So we drove back to my hometown of Springfield, Ohio, and I'm crying like a baby. They called me the weeping prophet. I got snot coming out my nose, my ears, crying, and I'm just telling him how thankful I am. And he says, Jayson, what are you talking about? You've thanked me a ton of times. You've done speaking engagements. You had this 6'6" white man in your wedding in Greensboro, North Carolina. I was the only white guy within a 30-mile radius. What are you talking about? And I said, Coach, I said, sitting there with my beautiful bride and seeing the blessings of the life I'd lived and married to this queen and the blessings I have financially and mentally and educational-wise, I realized I had been thanking you for $100. Justin, if I gave you $100, you say thank you. Only to realize, Justin, that I realized he'd given me $1 million. And if I gave you $100, you'd certainly be grateful. But if I gave you $1 million, it would be a different level of gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt compelled to share that with him and how the Lord had really opened up my eyes to realize the true level of gratitude. And I said, I want to give you and your wife a trip anywhere in the world for a week, expense paid. We're double income and no kids. And he goes, I'm not taking that. And I go, well, why not? Whatever you want, I'm going to do. He goes, you really want to know how you can thank me? I said, yes, sir. He said, whatever you think I did for you, you do for others. And 30 years later, Justin, I'm still in debt. So that's why I coach, and that's why I do what I do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, having that story and that connection and that desire to pay forward, what was given to you has led you to, you think about it, it's one thing to, get on a call and talk about X's and O's, right? Or it's one thing to get on a call and talk about, navigating through the coaching industry, but, to tie in, the marriage ministry, to tie in, those are things that not everybody does. So, and it's great to hear. And it's one of the things that I'm most excited to talk to you about is, I'm big on a step above and beyond what you're called to do or what is required or what you're asked to do. And I say to people all the time, I don't applaud a fish for swimming. I don't doing what you're supposed to do to me. That doesn't get that's requirements. You don't get bonus points, right? But what I never forget is the people that go a step beyond, even when you think back on it. I think back to last year, when we connected and I came and watched you guys play and. I didn't have a kid for you. You know what I mean? Like, you weren't recruiting somebody from me. It wasn't a, hey, Justin, come on down. I want you to check out campus and see everything because you wanted something from me. It was, hey, Justin, you're in the area. Come on down. Let's get to know each other. What can I do to help you? And those are the type of things that I think stand out more than anything else is when somebody does something for you that, they're not looking for anything on the back end. It's just about, the genuine nature of who they are. So, when you say that you and your wife have decided that we're going to minister to married couples and you're doing the seminars and the Zoom calls for the young coaches, what would you say throughout your career has been the part that you wish you had a you to help navigate you through that?
Well, being a young coach and getting an opportunity at 23, and I even shared this with my parents, with my kids, I had unbelievable parents, but they only knew what they knew, okay? And, I wish I would have had a mentor, so to speak, my young career. I actually ended up recruiting one, and his name is Gary Waters. And I just introduced myself to him after about 4 years in the profession, and I said, how you doing? I'm Jayson G. He goes, yeah, I'm Gary Waters. I said, I know you are. I had followed him, I had read up on him, and I made him, Justin, mentor me, and I'm thankful for that. But I think it starts with both our parents. My parents kept foster sisters and foster brothers. They kept foster kids and brought in people from their sides of the family to live with us from time to time, and they were just always serving. And so certainly I'm motivated by that. And I also think, Justin, God gives us certain skills and abilities. He didn't call me to fix cars. I'm not a good homemaker. I'm not a handyman. I got 3 skills, and I do that to the best of my abilities to glorify God in what I do and to impact others. But certainly I had people I looked up to, but not the level of engagement that I like. And so part of my motivation to mentor young coaches, I got a lot of coaches I mentor. Well, ironically, the last two guys I've worked for, Pat Kelsey and John Brandon, are both mentees of mine. How unique it is to work for a guy that you mentor.
Right.
And I've had the pleasure of doing that. And it's just something I enjoy doing. And partly my motivation is what I didn't have. So I'm thankful that the Lord gave me an experience to go without some things that make me more motivated to provide. And so when I say things to young coaches or to anybody that has a desire to grow and learn, they're like, oh man, you get me. Well, I get you because I've been there.
Right.
And I'm thankful to be able to serve you in that capacity.
Well, and you touched on something that I think is key, and that's the idea of I didn't have this. So instead of being bitter about what I didn't have and what I had to find out on my own, being an open book and saying, let me make sure that I give that knowledge to somebody else. Because we all know, it's no secret, it's not easy, being a young black coach in the basketball industry. And we've read all the articles. I wrote an article about it, but about how it's viewed. Okay, you're great recruiters, or you're great, but it's rarely said, hey, this is a great X and O's guy, right? It's easy to get kind of disappointed or get frustrated to see somebody that you feel, hey, my skill set's higher than theirs, or I've done more, and see yourself get passed over, right? So to be able to be a voice of sound guidance and a voice of reason for some of those younger coaches as they go through those things, I think that God's got you right where He wants you and right where He needs you at. You touched on something that I think is vitally important for any coach that's watching this, whether young or old, but that's the value of having a mentor. You went out and recruited one. What would your advice be to somebody that doesn't have a mentor, and how to find the right person or find somebody to help them along their journey?
Well, I want to touch a little bit on the journey in terms of being an African-American black head coach or coach in this profession. And I've had the great opportunity of being a head coach twice, once in the Division II level, once in Division I. And, certainly the guys that I've mentored that don't look like me have better jobs than I got. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, that's just a reality. And, there's staffs out there that have spit out some unbelievable coaches. There's staffs out there that have sent coaches to Marquette, Tulsa, Dayton, and they are awesome coaches. And then the African-American counterpart on those same staffs don't get half the jobs. I mean, it's just so blatantly obvious to me. So I've traveled through that. I've been the recipient of that. But ultimately, I can keep my composure and my attitude and my faith because I know God is the great decider of things. And He opens and closed doors that like you said earlier, insinuated that we think we got it all in control. It's His design. So I'm thankful for that. But what I did to choose a mentor is I think everybody has a skill set, a value system. Mine was faith. And so I was attracted to Gary Waters because of his faith. And when I started asking around about his value system and his impact on people and the success he had as a coach and his relationship with players, I wanted to be a part of that. That fit me. I think so often young coaches try to say, what's the highest level guy I can grab and try to get him to mentor me and try to stand in front of him and him notice me. I don't think that's the case. I knew who I was. I knew what I was all about. And I was attracted to people that carried themselves that way, the way I try to carry myself. And when I see the countless coaches on the calls that I'm affiliated with, I'm encouraged that they obviously see something in me that they're about, and it connects you. So I think identifying that person and then being so committed to your craft, you make them. My wife, I'm so indebted to my father-in-law because he had a degree, he was professional. My parents were blue collar and didn't have much of an education. And he sort of raised me once I met her from 19 to adulthood. I mean, until I was able to really make decisions on my own. That's probably 28, 30 for me. Right. But one of the things he said to me when I was at Ohio University, I remember Larry Hunter's, he was giving out responsibilities to all the staff, and I was a GA. And he said to to get our recruiting together. I want you to get ready the players for summer school. The other assistant, I want you to work on camp. When he got to me, he says, Jayson, go to the janitor's office and find something to clean these boards. And I'm walking out of there like, man, I ain't no slave. And da-da-da. So my father-in-law had been a part of the black movement in the 60s. And he was a militant type of guy. And I thought, let me call him and him sort of feel sorry for me. I'll never forget this conversation. He said, Jayson, you go make that board the clean as you can. You respect and honor him. He's going to help you. He's going to teach you the profession from the ground up. You got to learn from the bottom up. And if he tells you to wash 10,000 boards, you do it. And you make him mentor you. You stay in front of him and you make him mentor you. And Larry Hunter ended up becoming one of the greatest professional blessings in my career that I can ever have. And yet that was my initial impression based off my ignorance. So I really believe we got to be intentional, Justin, at identifying those people. And I just want everybody to know, hey, look, I can never have too many. I enjoy getting those calls. And I've never heard a word like you said when you said doing things your job description doesn't suggest. Well, between my marriage ministry on Sundays, my Thursday morning on Thursdays, my marriage ministries on Saturdays, obviously those aren't in my job description, right. But I feel called to do it. And I really like the way you put that there. And it's my way of just serving the God I serve.
Amen. Amen. So, I mean, you know, you've experienced a lot, right? Your journey's taking you from being a GA to a head coach, you know, at the Division I level, head coach at the Division II level, assistant coach. You've kind of ran the gamut of roles. As you navigated through that, and as you've been through that, and you touched on, you know, how the profession can be tough on black men. As you see everything that's happening in the world today, and you see everything that, you know, our young men are facing, you know, what kind of conversations do you have with your players to, number one, you know, educate them and adjust their mindsets? Like you talked a little bit about, you know, your mindset when you were asked to clean the board. And hey, that's not, but it was somebody with a knowledge level and had experience like what you currently have that was able to rein you in and say, hey, you know what? It's not about how you feel in the moment. It's about, you know, what we can get out of it, what you can learn out of it, and the professional development you're going to get from it. You know, how do you utilize that same lesson or that same experience when you're dealing with, you know, your young players that a lot of them, this is their first time really getting an opportunity to vocalize how they feel about, you know, their position in America, or how they feel about some of the fear that they face, or the situations that they face when they're just going about their daily lives. How do you bring those experiences full circle to be able to have those conversations?
Well, first of all, I think just give them a platform where you can listen. And obviously I've had dialogue, our whole staff has had dialogue with our players who are young African-American men in this world. And just allowing them to communicate, and then maybe sharing some stories. And that's really as far as it's gotten. We got our guys back, and I know Coach Brandon is truly committed to this social change. I've been so impressed with his genuine commitment to want to get this right, to want to be better, to want to make it better for them. And so I'm excited about doing that. But I think it's important as adults, whether you're African-American or white, that we just listen to them, let them talk, hear them out, and maybe share similar experiences, being vulnerable. But I think the real commitment comes from, what are coaches' true commitment to our kids? You know, I know a lot of people have sent out press releases and Twitter responses, and, you know, I think that's great. Please, I'm not by any means minimizing that. But one of the things Gary Waters taught me is be committed to the total person. And Justin, I'll be honest, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because you don't get paid for that. Right. They don't even care anymore, in my opinion. There's not a great emphasis on academics. I mean, they say it, but if you got a 1.0 and you're 20-0, you're okay. You got a 1.0 and you're 500, you're not okay. Right. It's as simple as that. I mean, and that's big business. So I think it starts with the total commitment to that person. And once you listen and hear them out, okay, so what are you going to do? I think empowerment is, we got a big responsibility. And I've shared this with our staff. How do you empower these guys? How do you get them to change their value system? Guys that play at our level have never had a job. Guys that play at our level have people lining up to do things for them. They get all the gear. They get all the shoes. So when you give them the COA, they're ready to just spend it all. So how do we teach them financial literacy? How do we teach them life? And I got something from Gary Waters that I've done in my coaching profession since I left him, and that is success class. Whether it be Tony Dungy's Quiet Strength, whether it be John Maxwell on leadership, whether it be Energy Bus, have a class that meets once a week, get a book, and teach them that book. It's not about your basketball team. It's not about their classes. You're really instilling real life things and showing them the value of reading books. No one ever told me that. It was all about basketball. And so exposing them to things in success class that they're going to get in real life, and using your platform. And you know what, Justin, unfortunately, sometimes you got to make them because they don't understand the value of it. So if I told my kids, hey, look, you've worked out 5 hours, let's go get some more shots up. They'd be like, yeah. If I told them, hey, I want to take you to career services, well, I got to go to career services. That we've got to start demanding from our kids what's really important. And as college coaches, we do a great job of preparing them for 3 to 8 years after college. That's the average professional career for anybody, MBA, overseas, whatever. What are they going to do after that 8 years? They've never worked. They're not making KD or LeBron money. What are they going to do? So John Brandon is forward thinking. And so our program consists of preparing those guys after that 3 to 8 year. And they call and go, Coach, my hip's out. I'm done. I'm ready to go in the real world. Can you help me? They're prepared for that. And that to me is how we use our platform to really speak to this situation and help our young men in their endeavors.
Awesome. And I think that's, I love your answer there, because there's action items that go along with it. It's very easy to say, we have to have social change, or we have to have, well, what are the steps to getting there? What are the steps that we're going to take to create that change? You talked about the press releases, and you can read right through them, right? So Procter & Gamble had some amazing commercials, during the BET Awards. And I said, okay, look, no disrespect to Procter & Gamble, but there's not a black face on their leadership board. So, the marketing strategy, that's one thing. You have to show it to me. And the thing that I keep telling our youth is, you guys have the ability to utilize your voices to force that change. A lot of these things that are being changed in the country right now, during your generation and my generation, we didn't have the power to speak up and create that change because we weren't united enough. And here it is, we're in a situation where the country is becoming, to me, the statistics will tell you it's more divided, but to me it's more united about the treatment of African-American young men and women around this country. People are coming together and utilizing their voice and their power to create and evoke change. So the fact that as a staff, you're having those conversations, and then you're taking it one step beyond the conversation and saying, okay, how do I prepare you for that change? How do I prepare you for life after basketball? That's something that, as a father, I look at a staff. My son's 14 years old, and I tell him all the time, it's not about the basketball. It's about, who's going to be able to make you a better young man. Because, when you go off to college, you're off on your own. I've raised you up to that point, but there's still a lot of raising to do. At 18, 19, 18, 19, those are the most important years, especially for young black men. So the fact that you guys have something set up for that, and you have a plan, and you're executing the plan, that's huge. That's something that, I look for and I listen to, and when I'm discussing college opportunities with guys, they always see, they see the gear, they see, the facilities, they see the schedule. I see the things on the back end. I see the people. I see, the system, and not the basketball system, but the support system. what's there to help you be successful off the court? What's there to help you be a better young man when it's all said and done? So, it's great to hear that from you. It's great to hear that that's something that you guys have already set a plan for. What has the climate been like trying to navigate through recruiting during two global pandemics? The pandemic of systemic racism, which some wouldn't call it a pandemic, but for me, I think it's a global pandemic and has been for many, many years. And obviously COVID-19. How have you been able to adjust and navigate through that?
I cannot not comment on the reality of our defining moment of the pandemic of George Floyd. And now the blessing behind that is that I've gotten calls from my white counterparts, extremely humble, Justin, and wanting to learn and wanting to grow, and some of which have apologized to me in terms of their white power. And so I think this is a defining moment, and I really challenge us as African Americans to really take advantage of this opportunity, this shift in our culture, that they really can feel our plight. We've been trained to function in a white world. We know not to raise our voices because we'll be called an angry black man. We've been taught to put our hands out the window when we get pulled over. We have made the adjustments, and now they're saying, wow, I didn't realize you had to make those kind of adjustments. What can we do to help? Well, I think it's really important that we step up at this time and be agents of change among the people on our staff that want to do better. For example, this Thursday call, I had one of my assistants that I mentor called me and said, Coach, I won't be on tomorrow. We got a Zoom call with our staff at 10. And I said to him, well, are you going to advocate for yourself? He goes, what are you talking about? We since our guys have gotten back, we started to do Zoom calls every Thursday at 10. And I was like, well, I'm not suggesting for you to disregard it, but what about you going to this coach and saying, Coach, is it okay if I participate in this professional development? It'll make me better. If I get better, you get better. And you said you're committed to my development. And we got to now use that voice. And he goes, well, Coach, I don't know. I don't know how he would take it. And I was like, well, we can't help them unless they truly understand how we feel. They've been in power, so they don't know that that's wrong. Make a long story short, this gentleman was on the next morning, and he asked to be able to speak in front of the group. We had like 15, 16 coaches. And he said, I called Coach G to cancel my spot and to let him know I wouldn't be there. And he challenged me. And I feel so liberated right now. He said, when I went to the coach and just was really adamant about how important this was to me, he says, well, sure. Yeah. And I thank you for talking to me about this, because we got to do more to help you develop. And if you can do me a favor, our director of basketball operations is black. You mind letting him jump on too? We'll just reschedule our meeting. Well, we've been trained not to even advocate for ourselves. When we advocate for self, we're self-promoting and we're being selfish. When they advocate for themselves, it's called professional development. So we have got to help them change that paradigm by having the courage, now that a door's been opened, to help them see as we move forward ourselves. So I didn't want to leave that point out there when you open that door for that. Now, the pandemic of recruiting, this has been so rewarding for me, because I've been able to truly see the tremendous integrity and character of John Brandon. And that's why I'm at Cincinnati, because of him, and I'm called to serve him. And I don't know if you could have said to me, is there any way you working with him, you can get a higher opinion of him? I'd have said, no way. I mean, this guy's top 1%. But how he's handled these pandemics and these times, and just working closely with him instead of from afar, and mentoring him and encouraging him and believing in him, to see his caliber of gifts, his commitment to the young people, and to see him say, you know what, we're in a recruiting pandemic. We haven't been able to evaluate. We're not giving into what we believe in. We don't believe in paper offers. We're not going to just offer kids because somebody else does it. We're not going to just offer kids because an AU coach called. We're going to build a relationship and a bond. We've probably got 8 total offers out there in 2021. We're probably last. The next guy's probably 100. I saw one school was at 350. Okay. Now again, I'm not belittling what someone else does, but John Brandon during this pandemic has said, "This is who I am. This is what I'm all about. I'm not going to adjust what I do and what I believe in, because when you really believe in it, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you're at. Doesn't matter the circumstances." And so we have consistently had to explain to recruits, 22s, 21s, 23s, are you good enough to get an offer? Yeah, but we don't believe in that. We're going to get to know you. We're gonna get your high school transcript. We're going to talk to your parents. We're going to know if you're a mass murderer or not. We don't care that Duke has offered you. This is our process. This is our program. And to see him remain steady as a ship in the night with icebergs all around has really been encouraging and authenticates why and confirms why God placed me here at this time.
That's awesome. And I think you touched on so many things right there within one answer, from, the guys and the kids. And I think that, for some of these kids during this pandemic, it's easy to get discouraged when you see offers flying around and you're like, well, wait a minute, I feel like I've done enough to earn an offer, or I feel like I can play at that level, but I'm not getting that offer, right? And them not understanding that those paper offers, they, I've told guys in the past, hey, so they said so and so offered me. I said, well, ask them, can you commit? And you're gonna find, you're gonna find out real quick.
Moonwalking like Michael Jackson.
So, I think it's important to identify, the fact that we have to be able to see through things, and we have to be able to, read the room and understand that there's a difference between, and I had a kid, and I'm not gonna say his name, but a kid that right now, class of 22, and he said to me, I talked to him and I said, I was talking to him and his dad, and I said, what are some schools that you're interested in? Where do you want to go? I mean, this kid, he's a 4-star guy. He's got, offers all over the place. But I just wanted to make sure that if there was a school that he liked, that he hadn't heard from yet, I was willing to pick up the phone and make a phone call, because he's an elite kid. And the dad said to me, says, Justin, I don't want somebody that doesn't want my son. I don't want somebody that's recruiting my son because somebody else is recruiting him. I don't want somebody that's recruiting my son because you told him to recruit him. I want somebody that's seen my son play and said, that's somebody that not only fits what we're doing on the court, but okay, now I've got a chance to get to know him. He fits what we're doing culturally and what we're trying to do here, for the future. And I think that's there's not a lot of people that think like that. And when I heard that, it made me willing to go that much harder for that young man and say, whatever I can do to help you, I'm a phone call away. So to hear you say that, I mean, it gives me hope. When I have those tough conversations, I have conversations with families and they say, well, Justin, why is kid X not getting any scholarship offers? And I said, well, because he doesn't have any varsity film. He hasn't, and then they come back at me and they say, well, so-and-so doesn't. And I'm sitting there like, I don't even know what to say to him, right? But to hear that from you, it makes me feel better about the process and about the way that I'm all about doing things the right way. And I tell all my guys, it's all about fit. It's all about finding the right fit in the right situation. And you don't need 124 offers. It looks. You just need one. It looks good to have.
had one, Cleveland State.
Yep. And when you have that one that believes in you, it doesn't matter. It looks good on an Instagram image to have 20 jerseys up there and say, which one should I choose? But to have one coach and one staff that truly, genuinely believes in you, but not only believes in you, which is something you said earlier, wants to develop you for life after basketball, I think that's huge and that's key. So as you've made that, you guys have been evaluating, you've been watching, as you head into the season with so many uncertainties, right? So many, question marks on what this thing is going to look like and how it's going to look, a day from now, let alone we can't plan for 6 months from now. Right. We don't know what things are going to look like a day from now. How do you keep your guys locked in and engaged when you're not able to give them that 6-month plan, that 3-month plan, and you kind of have to take things on a day-to-day basis?
I think you can always build culture, and Coach Brandon is awesome at this. He's got all kinds of sayings. Well, one of his sayings are that we say, daily, be where your feet are. Take care of now. And because that's already involved in our system, in our attitude, in our ideologies as in our program, I think it's helped our guys during this time. Be where your feet are. Right now, like you said, tomorrow they may have to go home from campus tomorrow. Well, I don't know. We might get 3 guys that can test positive. We don't know. But be where your feet are is kind of our motto. And it was our motto way before this COVID thing hit. But it certainly has paid off huge dividends from a culture standpoint. And now, we are building culture. And so I think there's 3 kind of coaches out there, both high school and college. I think the ones that say during the course of the year, somebody's going to stick a microphone in their face, whether preseason or in the season or during the year, and go, yeah, if you hadn't had COVID, you'd have been this, that, and the other. And then there's that other school that'll start off well and something will happen negatively, and then they'll say, well, it was because of COVID. Then there's a third coach out there that says, man, if it wasn't for COVID, we wouldn't have won this championship. We're trying to be in that third group. We're trying to say there's all kinds of skills in being successful. There's building into them as people. There's helping them in player development in terms of their character, their understanding of resume writing and career services, and encouraging them that way. The more we build them up, the more self-confidence we give them. There's platforms we can give them with Black Lives Matter things. All those things are in full bloom here in our program because it's that time. And then we can always do basketball. And oh, by the way, they've been doing basketball since 3rd grade. So they're not missing that. So we're trying to say this time is Bearcat time because we're able to amplify the intangibles and have their attention, because we don't have basketball. And so we want to be a part of that third group that looks at this time and says, not that we're thankful that a pandemic hit, thank God that we took advantage of the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you said something there that I think I'm going to carry with me. You could tell Coach Brandon I'm carrying it with me from here on out, and that's be where your feet are. And I think that, sometimes we get so wrapped up in, 20 feet down the road that we'll trip over, the ground in front of us. So that's huge to hear. And I want us to end on, one of the things that I've done, and I consistently ask the same question. I ask this question, and I ask it in many different ways, and that's, if you're looking in the mirror, but you're looking at yourself at the beginning of your career. And I've had that conversation with a couple players, and we talk about when they were 13 years old, and they were playing the game and getting ready for high school, right? And now, what advice would they give back to themselves? Now, from the coaching side, let's talk about that first job when your playing career was over. If you were sitting in the seat across from yourself, and you're about to embark on this journey that you don't quite know what it's going to look like. You don't quite know, the challenges that you're going to face, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What's one thing that you would tell yourself as you get started, as you take that first step into the coaching profession?
Enjoy the journey and understand your life is designed by God. And so we're trained, Justin, to say, oh, we lost by 1 point and probably made 5 critical areas, but we won by 10 and made 40. We celebrate that win because it was a win. The world told us we won. Instead of not understanding that it's all about us getting better, learning, and growing. So understand my life's designed by God. So the adversity that has hit me, I'm thankful for just as much as I am the successes. So that's what I would tell myself, that, hey, enjoy the journey and understand my life is designed by God and He's got me. So nothing to worry about. That's
awesome, Coach. I appreciate you so much. I mean, I learned so much just from this, 30 minutes and talking with you. I love being around people I can learn from, and that's something that means a lot to me. And it means a lot to me that there's people like you out there that young black coaches can call on and lean on and learn from and grow and develop. So I appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us today. And I know that you're going to help not only me, but you're going to help many people out there that come across this and watch this. So don't be surprised you get a phone call or two and they say, hey, Coach, I need you to be my mentor.
However I can serve, brother. I'm still paying off that debt now.
I appreciate it.
Off that debt.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Justin.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Take care.
All right, bye.